So, person number one. So if I were to pick you apart, what would I say? I think you're a type 6. Type 6 is the highest anxiety type. This type, like, if the average person's anxiety was like this voice, like a small voice in your head, or a voice in your head telling you, I need more, not doing it right, whatever, that anxious, rolling mind that won't shut up, that problem solver that's like, I need to do something. Um, for this type, that voice is more like a pack of wolves just chasing you down, like just trying to get you. And so, this type is, because of that, constantly prevalent, like just looking out to see what's going on, making sure that they can trust things around them, you know. And so that's your strength. And sadly, this type seems to do, when they're like extra like anxiety, they revert into a overachiever, like they're three, the the you know the perfectionist, right? Just always trying to do everything. And maybe not perfectionist, more like, you know, maybe I guess perfectionist, because this type can tend into OCD nature, like just wanting to get something done, wanting it to be right, with everything being in its place. Um, and then health, this type is more easygoing, is more like a nine, tranquil within themselves. Um, and on a personal level, so that's kind of like structure. Um, totally disciplined. I know that, yeah, very disciplined. Um, almost to a fault. Kind of builds up these mind structures, and it's hard to remove themselves from that structure. And because they're thinking so far in the future, they can create hypothetical futures that may not be true. And the more you go into the future in different ways, you're creating a reality for yourself. One of your own creation that may not be necessarily tied to reality, for better or worse. But you see it coming for sure. Um, but that's also two-edged sword. So you're a loyal person, but when you see it coming, you actually remove yourself before it becomes a problem. So you're super loyal as long as that other person's staying on their game, or you'll be the first person out, which is kind of funny because you require loyalty, but you're also willing to fucking dip out. So that's one thing I gotta be like, kind of like, hey, you gotta watch that. um, yeah, and but I think you need to lean more into spontaneity, do new things, try new stuff, get a taste for the senses of life, like, you know, being safe isn't what it's all about all the time. There's a time and place for being safe. And it is safe to go out and do new things and try new stuff. And you guys would be happier for doing it. So yeah. And you recently did. And I heard it in your voice. You were happier. So I'm glad you did. It actually made me happier. I was like, yes, yes, I'm glad you did that. Yeah, what else? If I were you, because I'm not you, but if I were you, and I wanted to work on something, you are actually pretty much getting it right now. I think you're on it. I mean, maybe you're letting the I would stop watching the news. I mean, I guess you need to know what's going on, because if you didn't know what was going on, I actually wouldn't know what's going on. I use you for a filter of important information, like, because there's a lot of bullshit out there. I don't want like fucked with my head. Um, so I'm aware of that. I will not watch the news. I don't know when the shelter is in place or not. Like, but I only really go out for essential shit anyway. Especially when there's no one cool to go see. It's nah, I don't like it. But yeah. Um, what else would I say about you? Recently hit up your ex. Um, but I was worried. I had this fucking dream that I ended up hooking up with your ex that you've been avoiding for a year in a movie theater. And I was kind of like, wow, would I do that? This is a dream. Would I do that? And I was like, well, for me, what I do in life is I don't really know what a person's perspective. I can't feel their emotions or any of that shit. But I put myself in their shoes. Like I feel all the things I've ever felt and look at their face and look for the cues that I have had in my face. And I kind of imagine what they're going through the lens of me. Like, if that makes sense. So, in a way, when I think about you going back and hooking up with your ex, I'm actually thinking about me hooking up with your ex and how that would make me feel if I were to do that. And part of me was, I think, afraid for you. Because I woke up at 2 in the morning thinking that shit, and I was like, ugh, I didn't like it. I was like, that's gross. Why would I ever do that? And I'd look at it, think about it, and I'd be like, okay, um, yeah, she wasn't a good person, in my opinion. But are any of us? It's a spectrum, I think, and it's not good or bad, but is it good or bad for you? Like, how does it make you thrive? Like, do you prosper from this relationship? Does it drive you to be more, to be better, to you know, just grow to something? Like, there's gotta be something. But if you're just going down, yeah, it's not good. But that's all I really got to say to you. Yeah, anxious folk.